Kennedy.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. After almost a week of questions, it's clear the Premier doesn't want to tell us where the $2.5 million payout came from. The Premier uses buzzwords like overall compensation package and the costs associated with negotiations. Nobody in Ontario buys those answers. Speaker, if the Premier won't tell us where the money came from, can you at least tell us what it bought you?
Thank you, Premier.
Let's talk about where the money came from. In fact, when we said that the funds, these resources to complete this successful bargaining process, where that money came from, Mr. Speaker, it came from things like early discounted payout of retirement gratuities, lowering the cost of sick leave, Mr. Speaker, making the delivery of professional development more efficient. So when I said, Mr. Speaker, that that money came out of the overall compensation package, those are the kinds of examples, because sick leave, retirement gratuities, that's all part of the compensation package of teachers, Mr. Speaker. That's where the money came from. It didn't come from the classroom. It didn't come from programs for students, Mr. Speaker. We've been clear about that, and those are the kinds of examples of where the money came from to make sure the resources were in place to get there.
No, I am. And I'm standing. Supplementary.
Every day we ask these questions, there is new talking points, new spin, new answers.
Member from Beaches, East York.
Acceptable. The Premier's unwillingness to tell us where the $2.5 million payout came from leads me to talk about where it could have come from. So what does $2.5 million in the classroom look like? It looks like 75 fewer educational assistants. Oh, no. It looks like a week of healthy breakfasts for 10,000 classrooms. It looks like over 33,000 grade 9 math textbooks. It looks like almost 115 students on a field trip to the Ontario Science Centre. Was it worth it, Premier?
Good question.
Mr. Speaker, you know, when you're dealing with a group of people who do not believe in the collective bargaining process, Mr. Speaker, and therefore have little experience of how it actually works, Mr. Speaker, and don't understand, Mr. Speaker.
Good check. Premier.
When a group of teachers who are organized into a federation, Mr. Speaker, make a decision that they choose to offset one expense by reducing the payout of retirement gratuities, or
Member from Renfrew, come to order.
In sick leave, Mr. Speaker, then that allows that money to be used for something else, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Coming from classroom programs.
From Leeds Grenville.
It's not money that was coming from student programs, Mr. Speaker. Now I'm sorry.
Just to make sure you heard, the member from Leeds Grenville, second time. The member from Renfrew, second time. I'm not going to accept shouting people down. Finish.
I'm sorry that the member opposite doesn't understand the process. I'm sorry that they have no interest, Mr. Speaker, in actually understanding how collective bargaining.
Thank you. Final supplementary.
What I understand is $2.5 million isn't available to students in Ontario. While this government is giving away much-needed money in our system for pizzas and hotels, the Liberals are turning their back on students and parents. Assumption Catholic School parents in Ottawa had to raise $50,000 for a new playground. Parkview Public School parents in Unionville aim to raise $25 grand for musical instruments, smartboards, novel sets, numeracy and literacy centres. Rosebank Road Public School in Pickering purchased 11 fans for classrooms. Those students and parents shouldn't be fundraising for fans while the Premier shrugs off $2.1
President of Treasury Board, come to order.
Calls it business as usual. Again, I ask, what did the $2.5 million...
Question. Thank you.
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Premier.
Here's what I understand, Mr. Speaker. When we came into office, 68% of students in this province were graduating from high school. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, 84% of students in this province are graduating from high school, Mr. Speaker. And that's because we have invested in more teachers. It's because we put in place student success teachers, Mr. Speaker, who work with kids who were falling through the cracks under the previous government, who didn't have the supports in the school to help them to navigate their way through high school, Mr. Speaker. It's because we created literacy and numeracy specialists, Mr. Speaker. It's because we have put in place the supports that students need. That's what I understand about why our education system in this province is one of the best in the world, Mr. Speaker. Over the last decade, people have come from all over the world to see how we have transformed our education system. We're going to continue to do that.
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you.